Alright, so today we're going to talk about human factors. Hi friends, my name is Jorge Muñoz. I'm a senior instructor pilot working in El Salvador. And as I just said, in this video we're going to talk about human factors. That means we're going to be talking about crew resource management, SRM, and all the other concepts that it includes. This video is going to be divided in different sections, so here on the screen you will see the timestamps for each specific section and as well on the description of this video and on a pinned comment down below. So if you're in a hurry or you just want to know about one specific thing about this video, please feel free to jump to the timestamp that you're interested in and go use your time on something more productive. But if you want to see the whole video, I appreciate it quite a lot. I always try to explain what I talk about in a simple way so that everyone can comprehend it, even if you're not inside the aviation world. So please, if you're slightly interested in this topic, or you are just starting your journey inside the aviation world but you are interested in this topic in particular, I still highly recommend you watch this video. Who knows, you might get something out of it. And alright, let's begin. I think that the whole theme about human factors is just too long for just one YouTube video. So I will probably be dividing this into 1 or 3 parts, so that they can be a little bit more bite-sized, more digestible for you. With that said, this whole concept of human factors inside aviation started because airlines started to notice that the vast majority of accidents were human-related. That means the pilot, the crew, or someone else was responsible for the accident. It was almost never fault of the machine, aka the airplane. Due to this, the terms CRM and SRM were created. SRM stands for Single Pilot Resource Management and CRM stands for Crew Resource Management. These are two concepts that you will hear a lot when you're talking about human factors. For now, we will talk about SRM, which basically is a training that the airline teaches to the pilots and the whole flight crew in order to prepare them to recognize and eliminate, or at least minimize, possible dangers before, during, and after the flight. When we talk about SRM, this means that the whole flight crew should be able to use hardware information and themselves as well as other people to their own advantage with the purpose of making the flight as safe as possible. To explain this a little bit more, with hardware I mean the airplane, the systems of the airplane, and anything that the airplane can carry inside that can help to prevent a possible danger. With information I mean that specific data for that specific flight. And when I say that you have to use yourself and use other people around you, that means that everyone, literally almost everyone, have something that they can contribute to the flight. The dispatchers of your flight, your maintenance team, weather briefers, air traffic controllers, and even your passengers can help. With the help of all of them, you can get the information that you need in order to see the whole picture of the situation and make an effective decision when everyone needs it the most. Remember that SRM is a responsibility of everyone, not just for the pilots or not just for the flight attendants. All of you must act like a team before, during, and after the flight, because the flight does not start when you take off and finish when you land. Now, we will see the 6 concepts that SRM includes. First, we have ADM, or Aeronautical Decision Making. We have risk management, task management, situational awareness, 5. CFIT, or controlled flight into terrain, and 6. And finally, we have automation management. Okay, so ADM, or again, Aeronautical Decision Making, is a systematic mental process that us as pilots have to constantly use in order to determine the best action for a certain circumstance. Just to put a quick example, if the engine fails, the pilot immediately knows what to do. In other words, ADM means that you have to make a decision, but it is a decision based on logic, your experience, and your own knowledge. It is a well thought out decision that you have been trained in order to recognize that you have to make a decision in the first place. Because if anything happens to the airplane or to the flight and nobody even notices it, that's it. You have to recognize first that you have to make a decision. With that said, when you recognize that you have to make a decision, you judge the circumstances and the decision, and you execute it in a matter of seconds. Or if you have enough time, you execute it in a matter of minutes. It doesn't matter the situation that you're in, you will always have a timer to make a choice. So you must learn how to use your time effectively during the flight. Because you have no control of your time, you can only learn to manage it. On two general kind of situations, emergencies or the rest of the flight. During emergencies, you will have to use a naturalistic response, or what we call an automatic decision making. Hear me out, not aeronautical decision making, no, automatic decision making. A slight variation into the ADM acronym. The concept's naturalistic response or automatic decision making means that because it is an emergency, you have no time to make a plan from scratch. You need to respond immediately by using the established procedures that you have been practicing since the very beginning of your training. For example, the engine failure during takeoff. But for the second case, I mean the rest of the flight, we have all the rest of possible situations that we might encounter during the flight. And most probably they don't need an immediate response. We can stop for a moment and think what we want to do. For example, a loss of power during the cruise flight. We have a considerable amount of time to recognize that something has happened and plan what we are going to do in order to counter it. We can make an analytical decision with all the information that we have to our disposal. We can even think and consider different outcomes for the flight, depending on the decisions that we make. To take an analytical response to these situations, the ADM process uses a list of steps that we have to think of in order to make the best possible decision. And to make the best possible decisions, we, as pilots, use a variety of acronyms that help us remember, in an easier way, what we have to do during these situations of possible higher than normal stress. Because when we start thinking in the middle of the heat of the moment, it is possible for us to forget a step or two of the ADM process. I mean, during a stressful situation, a natural response of the brain could be, "Oh my god, we're in an emergency, what the hell do we do?" So that kind of reactions is what we are trying to prevent with an acronym like DECIDE, which stands for Detect, Estimate, Choose, Identify, Do, and Evaluate. Now, for this video, I'm going to put ourselves in this situation, because I think it's one of the easiest ways to understand exactly how this ADM process works. Let's say that we are in the middle of our flight. We are flying a multi-engine airplane. We have enough altitude in case anything happens and everything seems to be going alright. And suddenly one of our two engines fail, but we don't know that yet. Because someone has to be the first one to notice it. So here's when DECIDE comes into action. The letter D stands for detect. So when the engine fails, we start noticing that something is not quite alright. We start noticing that the airplane kinda sounds a little bit different. We detect that the sound coming out from the airplane's engines is different all of a sudden. After all, just one engine is working and it sounds different. Some of our parameters start reading different. And because of that, now we look to our engine and we notice that it has stopped working. The second letter stands for estimate. Now that we know that one of our engines is not working, we need to define how necessary it is for us to fix this change or this problem. Okay, so you think, I know that I am flying a multi-engine airplane, therefore I still have one engine left. All of the parameters from the working engine seems to be alright. And luckily I am near to an airport where I can land and have my airplane checked. Because of all of those things that now I know, I can estimate that this engine failure is not an emergency. But I shouldn't continue this flight because I am still way too far from my destination. Even though I know that my airplane can perfectly continue the flight and even gain more altitude if needed with just one engine. But why take the risk? So here it comes, the third step of decide. Choose. I will choose how I want this flight to end. In this case, I choose to land my airplane safely in the nearby airport, with just one engine working. And here I will have my airplane checked because I already know that this airport has the facilities to do it. After that it comes the identify step, where I had to decide which actions are going to help me to succeed on what I want to do, in this case land the airplane in the nearby airport. For example, now that I have decided that I'm going to land this airplane in this set airport, how am I gonna do it? Am I going to try to restart the engine before landing? Or should I continue like this? Do I even have enough fuel to reach this airport? Or am I still too heavy to land this airplane? How do I contact the ATC of that airport to tell them my situation and what I want to do? How do I tell them to let me land on their airport? You have to identify all that in order to get the result that you chose before. By now we are reaching the fifth step of decide. Do. You have to do the necessary actions in order to adapt and overcome the changes or the problems that you are dealing with. You have to do the action to solve the problem. So let's say that because I have enough time and enough altitude, even though I'm going to land at this nearby airport, I am trying to restart my engine that has just failed. And with this we have come to the last step of decide. Evaluate. You have to evaluate the effects of the actions that you have made. So I said I'm going to try to restart the airplane's engine, but that didn't work at all. So I have evaluated that what I tried to do with my engine has not worked. And therefore I decided to land my airplane with just one engine working. And we managed to land the airplane safely. So now I can evaluate that the action of landing the airplane actually worked. And now I can have my engine checked. So wrapping up all this, in this video we talked about SRM and the 6 concepts it includes. And we have just talked about the first one, ADM, Aeronautical Decision Making, the mental process for taking decisions, and how this DECIDE acronym can help us to make those decisions. In the next video we're gonna be finishing talking about aeronautical decision making, and we're gonna start with risk management. So that's the end of today's video. If you're interested in becoming an outstanding private pilot, or you want to start your training of private pilot with a heads up over the others, I highly recommend you to check out my book Essential Knowledge for the Private Pilot. You will find a link in the description down below. This book uses the 2 most effective study techniques in the whole world: active recall and spaced repetition, and it applies them into aviation. If that sounds good to you, again, the link of the book will be in the description down below. It's an Amazon Kindle exclusive. Remember, you don't have to study hard, you have to study effectively. And with this book you can do just that. And that's it. Thanks very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video or at least found it somewhat interesting, please give it a like. If you learned something new, I'll appreciate quite a lot if you consider subscribing to the channel. And if you just feel like it, you can follow me on Instagram. The link is also down below. I upload very cool photos over there, or at least they seem cool in my head. I am trying to upload videos at least once or twice a week, mainly explaining topics that has to do in a way or another with the IFR world, but in a logical order. Also, I will be probably talking about aviation and education in general. but always trying to contribute something new to you. If you have a question or an opinion about something I said in this video, or you want me to talk about something in specific, please feel free to comment down below, or you can get in touch with me via Instagram. I would love to hear what you have to say. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!